On today's Commanders Report, I'm going to be breaking down some roster moves that the Washington Commanders made yesterday. I'm going to be breaking that down. 4 moves to break down for you here in just a second. But first, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you always get access to our free content here on YouTube. Last week, I put out a nice sub battle last week with all of the NFC East teams here at Chat Sports, and we ended up taking the victory there with 192 new subscribers to the Commanders Report. But now we have a chance to take the W for the month, all right? Let's come away with the W here for the month of May. We are still quite a bit away from Giants now and Eagles now, and even Cowboys Report has us by just a little bit. Every subscriber counts here. We're trying to build this channel so we can have as many live watch parties as possible during the 2023 NFL season. So click that subscribe button, turn on your notifications for our free content here on YouTube every single week. So now the roster moves that the Commanders made yesterday, some pretty big moves here. Andrew Norwell, starting guard for the Commanders last year, has been placed on the PUP list with the intention to cut him once he passes a physical. And then they officially did cut Cameron Dantzler, the cornerback that they actually took off waivers earlier this offseason. And then because of those 2 moves, they have also signed Terrell Burgess, the safety, and Brandon Dillon, a tight end. So let's break this down here one by one, starting with Andrew Norwell. So he was placed on the reserve PUP list yesterday, and the plan is to release him once he passes a physical. He has been dealing with a right elbow injury all offseason. You cannot release somebody until they are fully healed from their injury. So that is the case there. And last year, just a plain simply disappointment, right? Ron Rivera brought him in because he played with him with the Carolina Panthers. He was a Pro Bowl caliber player. And then last year, he was the worst offensive lineman, arguably, on one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League with a 59.8 Pro Football Focus grade. Not good whatsoever. Norwell was a complete disappointment for the Commanders, and you're saving quite a bit in 2023 cap space here with this post-June 1st designation here. Commanders going to save $4.38 million in cap space for 2023, which opens up some space to make some moves. But there's also Cam Dantzler, who was cut by the Commanders on the 30th yesterday as well. And he was claimed off of waivers by the Commanders back in March. Before the NFL draft, we didn't know what the Commanders were going to do in the secondary. They wanted to add another piece. But Washington, in the 2023 draft, ended up taking Emmanuel Forbes and Jartavius Martin with their first 2 picks in the early rounds. So there just wasn't a whole lot of room for Dantzler on this roster. You end up saving $2.74 million in cap space by releasing him. And it's definitely going to be something that the Commanders are looking at that's pretty darn good. So let's take a look at the depth chart here for the Commanders on the offensive line, how this affects how the Andrew Norwell cut affects their depth chart. Nick Gates and Ricky Stromberg, I think, are probably the favorites to play at left guard and center. We'll see how it shakes out over OTAs, training camp, that sort of thing. Sadiq Charles is somebody that could also compete for the left guard spot. But Ricky Stromberg, they did draft him pretty early in this year's draft. It seems like they believe in him. I think Nick Gates and Stromberg are probably going to be the presumptive favorites there. Of course, you got Leno Jr., Cosme, and Wiley filling out the rest of the offensive line. And then when it comes to Dantzler, he was probably not going to play much anyway. You got Kendall Fuller, you got Emmanuel Forbes, and Jartavius Martin as your presumptive starters right now. And you still got Benjamin St-Juste, who's a pretty darn good player. Don't forget about Danny Johnson either, who's a pretty good player in his own right. So this is a pretty darn good cornerback room, in my opinion. Maybe missing that true number 1 presence, but you're hoping that Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie out of Mississippi State, can ascend to that position this year and really take this league by storm. So what is your one-word reaction to the cuts made yesterday of Andrew Norwell and Cameron Dantzler? Let me know in the comment section right now. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break here, do me a favor, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section and answer today's question. So the Commanders had their plan in place. They knew they were going to cut Norwell. They knew they were going to cut Dantzler, and they had their plan for who they were going to replace them with with these two signings that they've made on Tuesday. They signed Terrell Burgess, safety, formerly with the Los Angeles Rams, had 11 tackles last year. Very limited action for Burgess last year, backup caliber safety. But right now, I don't think the Commanders really need a starting level guy. They need somebody that can play good special teams play. That's what Burgess does really well as well, and somebody that can fill in if something ever happened to Cameron Curl or Derek Forrest. Then you got Brandon Dillon, the tight end, and we know that Armani Rogers, we're going to be getting to Rogers and his injury here in just a second, but the tight end room needed some fixing up here, and they bring in Brandon Dillon with just one career catch with the Minnesota Vikings for 6 yards. So we'll see how he does in camp. We'll see if he can compete for a roster spot. He's definitely somebody that is an interesting guy, 6'5", 250, so he's got some good size. Maybe he can come in as a nice blocking piece for the Washington Commanders. So coming up next year, I'm going to be giving the latest news coming out of the Commanders OTAs. Of course, it's the second block of the Commanders OTAs this year. I'm going to be letting you know who has been doing well, who might not be doing so well, and the latest news items surrounding your Commanders. But first, do you believe in Emmanuel Forbes? Do you think he's going to be the next lockdown cornerback for your Washington Commanders? I certainly think so. And if you agree with me, go to chatsports.com/Emmanuel Forbes and pick up his officially licensed Commanders jersey on the Chat Sports website. I'm personally a big believer in Emmanuel Forbes. I think that he had to go to the right system because of his slender build, but with all the off coverage that the Commanders like to run under Jack Del Rio, I think he's going to be one heck of a player with those great instincts that he has in pass coverage. So if you think Emmanuel Forbes is going to be the next CB1 here in Washington for years to come, go to chatsports.com/Emmanuel Forbes to get his jersey today. So now let's get into the latest from Commanders OTAs, and things have been getting pretty spicy here lately, especially with the recent news that tight end Armani Rogers is now out for the season with a non-contact Achilles injury, which just really sucks because going into the season, the tight end room was already a little light. Logan Thomas is supposed to be your number one guy. Is he a true number one caliber dude in this league? I'm not convinced of that, and Armani Rogers was one of those young guys they were hoping could ascend to become maybe the future tight end one of this team. Now he's out for the season. Of course, they get Brandon Dillon to go out and replace him in NFL free agency. Then we get to Charles Leno Jr., who, of course, is absent from OTAs, despite the fact that many people think he should have been replaced this offseason. But Ron Rivera commented on his absence the other day. This is what he had to say. Charles has been in the system, and I think that's probably part of why he's not here. He knows the system. He was in it in Chicago, and so a lot of stuff that they did the first week that he was here was pretty much the stuff that he's been involved with. And he's right, he has been in the system for quite a bit. It's a very similar system that he ran in Chicago that Eric Bieniemy likes to run. And he's somebody that has been with the Commanders for a long time. It's absolutely in his right to not show up to these voluntary workouts. And, you know, it's somebody that's coming off kind of a lower season, somebody that's really coming into a prove-it year, in my opinion. I would have really liked to see him show up, but if he truly feels like he didn't need to be there, I guess he knows his body the best. Get that extra rest. Then we got Kazmeir Allen, okay? So punt returner, special teams extraordinaire, undrafted free agent out of the UCLA Bruins, is impressing Commanders coaches and media at the Commanders OTAs with not just his special team stuff. He's doing a great job with the punt and kickoff return stuff that they're doing right now, but he's also impressing as a wide receiver and as a route runner for somebody that was undrafted. This guy's got those quicks. He's got the wheels as well. He can really be a deep threat if he can develop that part of his game. I'm talking about the route running, the body control, the hands, all that stuff that goes into being a complete wide receiver prospect. Seems like Kazmeir Allen is turning some heads at Commanders camp, and he's someone to watch out for to make the final 53-man roster. So will Kazmeir Allen make that final roster? Let me know in the comment section with a yes or a no. Personally, I think he has a pretty darn good shot at making it at least as the punt and kickoff return man. He is very electric in that portion of the game, and who knows, maybe he can carve out a nice receiving role for himself as well. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's show, comrades. Really do appreciate all the support that you give to the channel. Make sure you click that subscribe button to help us win the month of May in that sub battle for the division. And I really do appreciate all of the support that you guys give to the channel. Make sure you turn on your notifications as well so you always get notified when we put out our free videos.